Hi everyone, welcome to the Murley End. We are doing a bit of a wrap up of the year from a Sri Lankan cricket perspective. I hope if you're watching this around Christmas, New Year, whatever you're celebrating, if you're celebrating, I hope you have a great time. My name's Mark Machado. Please hit the subscribe button. We've got a esteemed panel with us today. We got Nick Brookes in Jamaica. I want to say Kingston, but possibly somewhere else in the island. We've got Estelle Vasudevan, Dominic Machado, my cousin, in America, and we're joined for the first time ever on the Murley End by esteemed writer from ESPNCricinfo, Andrew Fidel Fernando. Andrew, thank you for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure and honor. We are talking about our favourite moments from Sri Lanka cricket in the last calendar year, the last 12 months. It's been quite a year for Sri Lankan cricket. I'm sure we'll get into that during the course of the show. I think the plan is we're all going to pick a moment, and then at the end we're going to try and kind of have a small debate and figure out the top five moments for Sri Lankan cricket. And then, of course, you guys can comment and leave your thoughts about it below. And I'm sure you'll let us know on social media what we've got right and got wrong. Andrew, as you're the guest, the newest person on this team, we'll let you go first. And pick your favorite moment.
Last in, first under the bus. That's how it goes. Let's see how it is. um, yeah, favorite moments. I mean, as soon as you said it, I think two moments came to mind. One was probably that incredible 100 that Chamari Atapattu hit in goal in the third ODI against New Zealand. Just had not seen hitting from any Sri Lanka player or many like women's players that are capable of that kind of like incredible power and just to do it in a clutch game to beat New Zealand for the first time ever in a series and just her batting like right through the year has been insane. I think while it's not completely true that like Atapattu's batting is that Sri Lanka's fortunes aren't just an extension of Atapattu's fortunes anymore. There happily are one or two other players now, but it's still very much she's still very much just a playmaker in the team, and just to see her have such a great year minus the WPL snub at the end. I think that and probably the highlight for me was that 100 in that third ODI. So I think I wasn't actually in goal to watch it. Estelle might be able to say some more about it. She was actually there. The one that I was there to see, though, was Dilshan Madhushankar's in-swinging delivery to Rohit Sharma, second ball, took one away first time. I mean, it wasn't actually an in-swinger, sorry. It was a cutter. It was an off-cutter, left-armer's off-cutter, second ball, like beautifully executed, beautifully thought out, just like perfect. Like it was an unplayable delivery to a player who was one of India's best in the tournament. And just to have the ability not just to, I mean, I think I spoke to kind of some of the coaches at Mahela, and it had kind of been a collective idea that Madhushankar needs to have a surprise ball at the start of the innings to kind of surprise the because him swinging it this way all the time is not gonna people are gonna start expecting it, but the to have another one that goes the other way, and to first of all the strategy part of it, and then the execution. He did it beautifully, disguised it, and it was still fast, and he got a lot of grip off the surface. I think that was probably the best kind of piece of individual cricket I saw Sri Lanka men's player produce through the course of the year, and I think that was a lot of fun to watch in a full Wankhede Stadium. That was, I mean, of course, we know how the rest of the night panned out, but that one moment was like pretty electrifying for me.
If I had to push you for one of those two moments, though, Andrew, which one would you pick?
Uh, I guess just because I was there, I felt like the emotion surged through me when Madhushankar was bowling, and so personal favorite. Whereas Atapattu was watching on the TV, and that was incredible as well. But yeah, I would probably end up going with Madhushankar just because I just it was just one of those moments where you're just just flabbergasted by what's just happening in front of you, and you hear the stadium go completely quiet, and you're experiencing all of these kind of, all your senses are alive, for that reason only, and not because Atapatu's innings, any of her innings actually, you could pick many moments in Atapatu's year, but only because of the kind of sense of occasion around Mother Shankars, I think is.
Fair enough, fair enough. Nick, what's been your favourite moment?
I think, well, kind of similar to Fidel's, a strange one in a losing cause, but it was Kusal Mendes' innings against South Africa, and specifically those few overs where he hit like, I think 5 or 6 sixes over square leg. He took Ngidi for a couple of towering sixes and then stepped inside one to Janssen and then hooked Rabada. It's a funny one to choose because it was in a losing cause, a game that Sri Lanka weren't particularly close to winning, but those few overs for me were just totally exhilarating. I was like pounding my chest up right in front of the telly, and it was at the start of the tournament, and I think coming into that tournament, we all had a lot of questions about whether Sri Lanka could put up big totals. And, watching that innings, I was like, they can score 350 if this guy keeps doing this, which he didn't, as it turned out. But yeah, for those brief few moments, I just felt blood pumping through my veins. And it was wonderful to watch, right? Anything that strayed onto middle stump or leg stump felt like it was just going to get hit for six. And so that's the one moment that stands out for me as something that was pretty joyful.
Yeah, it was quite a moment, and it's funny because both the moments you and Andrew have picked are moments of great hope and optimism for Sri Lankan cricket.
Fleeting moments of
And
optimism.
yeah. Dom, do you want to pick your moment? Then we'll go to Estelle and I'll round mine off. Then we can have our little debate at the end.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm going to pick another fleeting moment of optimism, another kind of singular performance in a loss, and we're going to pick another Sri Lanka India game. We're going to pick Dunath Wilalaga's 5-wicket haul against India in the Asia Cup. I remember, being in the US, you have to get up quite early for those games. So my son and I were watching at about 5:30 in the morning, and India gets off to this great start. They're 80 for nothing. And then Wella comes on, and you can just feel that magic. You can feel like something's happening. He bowls Shubman Gill first with a beautiful delivery, pitching middle, spinning, hitting off. And then he gets Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma in the next 4 overs. And you can really hear the Premadasa getting pumped up about this. And then again, he takes the wickets, I believe, of KL Rahul and Hardik Pandya in the match, and he's taking catches. He catches one off of Lanka, and they bowl out India for 213. And I think basically until the World Cup final, this is the hardest run match that India has, more or less. And you feel like, okay, we've bowled out India for 213. We have a chance to chase it down, even though Indian spinners are great. And they almost do it. They almost do it. They're 162 for 6 in the 38th over. You're like, okay, DDS and Will Alagay is there as well, batting it out. And you're thinking, okay, he's going to have this magic moment that it's going to define his career. He's going to play an innings and bowl an innings that are just, of another character and elevate the Sri Lankan team over the Indian team. So the level of emotion I felt watching that kind of low scoring close match was really intense. And it's one of those matches where the middle overs aren't boring, right? You're watching every single ball, you're seeing how much it turns, you're cheering for every single ball, you're gasping collectively as the ball passes the bat. And also at that point, I think Sri Lanka was still on its 13-game winning streak, and this was kind of everyone saying, okay, well, they haven't really beaten anyone. You beat India, that counts, right? And they made the streak of bowling out opponents for 14 straight matches, but they couldn't quite hang on to the win. So unfortunately, we've got another almost but not quite example for our top 5 moments.
Oh dear, oh dear. Estelle, what's your moment?
Yeah, I think I would have picked something from the New Zealand series like Andrew, because I was there, and it was pretty special, I think, because that was the first kind of sign of this team is going to do something special this year, because beating New Zealand they had never done before, and beating them in ODIs, and just the way Atapattu played was special. But I'm going to pick another one from the women's team beating England in England. I think Mark was probably going to pick one of those because he was there. Um, but just I remember I was covering the India-Pakistan game, and I think Andrew was sitting next to me, and I was watching the game on my phone. Um, and this is the second T20. Um, and we the English batters were getting out, and it was almost like surreal, because you kept thinking, okay, this pair is going to put up a big partnership and Sri Lanka is going to be battered out of the game, and it just didn't happen. They kept picking up wickets, and then even after they got bowled out for pretty low score, I don't think they got to 100 in that game. Yeah, 104. Even then, you kept thinking, okay, if they get Atapattu early, then there's going to be some nerves. It's going to be tough. But they just kept batting, and Harshita Samaravikrama finished that game with a six. So it was pretty special, I think, going to England, beating England for the first time ever in T20 cricket. Special, I think, to be honest, if we had been talking about five moments from the women's game, we probably could have picked five moments. And if you had asked me for five moments of Atapattu, we probably would have been able to pick five moments too, right? Because they had a superb year altogether. But I'll go with that one, the second T20, not the series, but the second T20, where they were coming in after. I think the first game was in really bad conditions, and it was rain shortened and really cold, and our girls really didn't enjoy it. And then to come back and beat England in the second game, that was really special.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the second game as well. I was at the first and second game, and the being a fan of Sri Lankan cricket and living in the UK your whole life, living in England your whole life, is quite a strange experience in some ways, because Sri Lanka is obviously a major cricketing nation, um, but and we've had several players who've gone on to almost redefine the various different roles within cricket. We've won several World Cups. We've had periods where anything less than getting to World Cup final was seen as a disappointment. Yet still, there's a lot of people in England who don't really respect Sri Lankan cricket and don't give it the same reverence that I think it should do. So going off to that first T20 in Brighton and seeing the game rained off, and it was played in the most English of English conditions. And actually, I thought the Sri Lankan girls did pretty well. They only lost the game by 12 runs, and I thought it was pretty, at the end of it, it was pretty close. And then I had a really bizarre moment when I was walking out of where the post-match interviews were taking place, back to the station. I remember there was a train strike, and I had to get back to the station before like 11 o'clock, otherwise I was going to be stuck in Brighton forever. I walked past all the girls taking the whole squad and the coaches taking their kit to the bus, and it was wet, it was cold. I'd imagine most of the Sri Lanka squad had never come across conditions like that, and they were just angry. You could just feel that they were upset that with the way that the game had ended, because of the overs had been cut from them. They hadn't experienced those conditions. And one of the coaches said to me, they were like, "Don't worry, like, this team's going to be something to. It's going to go on and do some special things in a few years' time. And B, they're just not used to these conditions. When it gets better, we'll be fine." And then a few days later, I drove down to Essex. The sun was shining. It was about 30 degrees. And it had totally flipped itself on the head, right? The English girls weren't prepared for a dry pitch that was going to really help the Sri Lankan team out, and wickets started tumbling. And then on top of all that, getting to see Charmer in the flesh is something absolutely unbelievable. Like, some players unless you've seen them up close, unless you go and watch them in the stadium, you don't realize how much you miss. You don't until you go and watch Charmery, you don't realize how hard she hits the ball, and you don't realize how hard she feels. And you see her out sprint other people to get a ball, and you're like, that's extraordinary. She's running past her own teammates because she knows that she can run quicker than all of them to get it. And then the moment when they won it afterwards, and the whole day in Essex was quite extraordinary because all the England fans, and obviously it was more England fans than anyone else, just assumed that England were going to win and the series was going to be over. The ECB hadn't even picked their best squad. And I kind of felt there's a bit of disrespect there. And then Sri Lanka come in and just are really professional and do it. And it was just that for me, it was an extraordinary moment and one I don't think I'll ever forget. And I loved every moment of it. Guys, should we take a
Yeah, but
quick
you have to
break?
pick another one as well. How are
Yeah,
we
you
going
have
to
to
pick
pick
five
another one.
otherwise?
Yeah.
Well, why don't we do this then? Why don't we add Fidel's second moment in as well, because it feels bad
Yeah.
that we've picked three men's moments and the women have been absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah.
And they've actually gone away in one series and Sri Lanka women's cricket's in a better place now than it was at the beginning of the year. And we're talking about games which the boys have ended up losing and triggered all sorts of catastrophes around it, right? So why don't we add in, for the sake of the top five, Charmery's was it 100 against New Zealand?
Yeah.
In Gaul that
Yeah,
you picked, Andrew.
140 off 80. 140 not out off 80 while they were chasing 196.
Yeah.
Chasing 196. Yeah.
So I suppose that what we've got to do now is try to figure out what kind of order it's in. After me spending ages talking about one of the same game that Estelle picked, I'd imagine we that's going to be closer to the top. So what do we think is going to be in fifth place? I'm going to nominate Pistol's innings against South Africa because that of all of them seems to have been the one which had the least amount of impact.
I'll take that, man. I mean, I think that is a deserving number 5.
What do you think, Estelle?
Yeah, I think probably out of the ones we picked, that's probably 5.
Yeah, and that was one, I think, too, where at the moment, we were still pretty sure they were going to lose, even though it was amazing hitting, right? South Africa just scored, 428 against us, and the highest World Cup total ever. And so we still knew, even with this ferocious hitting, that, well, what's going to follow and what's going to happen.
Andrew, were you at the ground at the time? Was it Hyderabad it was played in?
No, that was one that I only went for the second half. So I didn't cover a lot of Sri Lanka matches. I barely covered Sri Lanka in the World Cup, but I wasn't there for that.
That's probably a good thing for your mental health.
Yeah.
No, because I just wonder what fans in the stands would have been thinking at that moment. Like, was it on at that point? Like, because I kind of agree with Dom. I don't think at any moment I ever thought we could get there, right?
Yeah, I think 428 is one of those totals that like every single thing has to go right in your top order, and like that has not happened for Sri Lanka for like many years. So it's just you just knew that, okay, one player will come off, like two players max will come off. It was a very flat pitch. Delhi was very flat through the whole World Cup. But it was hard to, like little mistake here, a mishit ball there, like it's gonna crumble very fast. But I mean, good on them for going out and kind of embracing the challenge. But yeah, it always seemed like you never believe those kinds of chases until they actually happen.
Yeah. Andrew, what do you think of the 5 moments that we've picked should be at number 4?
Okay, both of the women's kind of victories deserve to be in the top 3. Dom's pick was
Weller's 5.
Oh, well, Lalage. Yeah. It was a turning pitch. Yeah, I mean, it feels bad to relegate that before, but I would say that one also being very sneaky and putting mine into the top three, putting Mother Shankar into the top three. But yeah, I think he did. I mean, it was great because of who it came from, and the wickets he got were very high quality. I remember him getting quite a lot of top quality wickets out, and it was one of those kind of Ketarama kind of turning tracks. And for that reason, I'd probably put that at 4.
I think that should go at 4. The only reason being is that I think that Muddy Shankar's that one ball that you picked, Andrew, I think that's directly led to him becoming a Mumbai Indian, right? And
Yeah, very possibly.
that's
Yeah,
gonna have such an incredible impact on his life if he ends up playing IPL cricket for Mumbai for several seasons, and he's able to embrace opportunity. Then that's going to be transformative for him, right?
yeah. I
And
mean,
hopefully Sri Lankan cricket.
yeah. I mean, he's obviously. I mean, I spoke to Mahela about him during the World Cup, and Mahela, obviously Mumbai Indians director, was very very complimentary about his bowling. But it was the perfect place and the perfect opponent against whom to bowl that delivery. At the Wankhede against Rohit Sharma. Mahela's got the backroom stuff sorted. He just needs to convince a few other people in the Mumbai Indians office that this guy's worth, shelling out the big bucks for. And so bowling that ball right then is probably like as close to a life-changing single moment as you might get, in a career. So that was obviously spectacular.
And the quality
Dom,
of the wicket.
do you want to put?
No, I
I was
think
going to say,
think
do you want
that's
to put
right. I
an
think
argument?
no. I think if you look at the quality of the wickets, he got Kohli, he got Gill as well. He got, I think, he didn't get Hardik, but he did get Rahul, and I forget who the fifth wicket was that day. But it was a brilliant spell of bowling, and just it was a dead pitch, but he was able to extract something out of it. He used that putter, I think, 3 times to pull a wicket at different paces, which is just, for someone who is just introducing that into their arsenal to be able to think, okay, I'm going to bowl this one at 136. I'm going to bowl this one at 125. I'm going to bowl this one at 114. That's just some amazing thinking. And to do it on the biggest stage in the World Cup. And then, sort of at the end of that innings, I felt Sri Lanka didn't bowl that poorly on that pitch. And then, of course, we get shot out for 50. But yeah, I think for Dilshad Madhushanka, that was career defining. And it also kind of tells the story about one struggle Sri Lanka cricket is having, right? Um, at home, you can have pitches that are favorable to your side. You can have Will Alagay bowl a spell like that, but can he do it elsewhere? Right? The pitches aren't so friendly to spin when the pitches are made to score 350. And I think that's something they still have to learn. But Madhushanka proved that he can do it anywhere, no matter the circumstances at any point. So I gladly relegate Wella to 4 there.
Nick, Estelle, I'm sure. Are you guys in agreement, or can you put a case for
I think
Alligator?
for Dunit, one big thing that kind of diminished the quality of his spell was the fact that Asalanka also picked up wickets. I mean, no offense to Asalanka, but he's I don't know if you can even call him a part-timer, right? He really bowls. And he was able to pick up wickets in that game as well. So I think it's not that Velalage didn't bowl well, that the 5 wickets he picked up, it's anyone's dream, right? If you're a young cricketer and you're daydreaming about, performing for Sri Lanka, you're picking those 5 wickets to take, right? So it was incredible, I think, but you have to kind of put Madhushankar's slightly
Asal
above.
Asalanka's wickets were all because of the pressure where Lalage created this. So.
So that leaves us to the top 2, right?
Top three, I think, right?
Oh well, I thought so. As it stands in my mind, and I could be wrong, the bottom number 5 is Kusal Mendis's innings against South Africa. Then Walalagay's fifer. Then Madhushanka Or do we think Madhushanka's
No, I mean Madhushanka, I think it's a 3 because Sri Lanka didn't win either of those games, and there were more telling kind of performances. So Madhushanka being at 3 makes sense. I mean, it was in terms of a singular moment that kind
Yeah.
of got the blood flowing. That was great, but in terms of kind of a more complete kind of putting down of dominance, I think. I mean, for me, both the other matches are probably better.
So I'll go to you, Estelle. Which way round would you have this?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, no? I think I would have to pick the New Zealand game as the England game as number 2. Um, just because that innings Atapattu played against New Zealand was like, I mean, we just talk about it like it happens every day, right? 196 to chase, she scores 140 of them. Uh, there was weather around, short game, and like what we always have to take into the equation is the fact that she knows if she gets out, that game is over. Because that's what has happened so far. I mean, sure, you've got a couple of players contributing, and they're very much that support type of player, right? If Atapattu gets out there, there's no way Sri Lanka is chasing 196 in, I think it was 28 overs or 29 overs. There's no way that happens. So just that, with that pressure, the way she was able to perform, and like Andrew and Mark both mentioned, just the hitting right throughout that series. I mean, we saw it in the T20s. Andrew was on commentary with us as well. The way she was striking the ball was just incredible to watch. So I would say number 2 England, and number 1 the game against New Zealand.
Yeah,
Or
and I think
Atapattu's performance.
And I think you described it really well at the time, Estelle. You said, in that innings in particular, in that whole series, the balls were like exploding off the bat. It's like she had like a bazooka hidden in there or something. They were just flying. And New Zealand were also playing a really high quality team. It's not England had kind of had swapped out a few players, with blooding a few players. New Zealand were playing their best team, and they had come, very much to get an overseas series win here. And 196 you'd think it's like an Atapattu proof total almost, but then she proved everybody wrong by being that aggressive and being that good. So yeah, even just the highlights of that, I mean, worth seeking out if you're listening to this. Definitely.
I also think the England win doesn't happen if the New Zealand win doesn't happen, right? As in, I think if New Zealand, if they don't beat New Zealand, they maybe don't have the confidence to come to England and really kind of go toe to toe with them as well. Nick or Dom, do you have any reservations about our top 5 of the way it's all panned out? Considering the number 1 pick, none of us even picked. That's our favourite moment initially.
I don't have too many reservations. I would probably go the other way around with the England and New Zealand wins, because that series win in England to me just felt like a really transformative moment for the women's team. I think something that we might look back on in like 5 years' time as, like a real turning point for the Sri Lankan women's team, and how Sri Lankan's women's cricket is viewed globally. But I've got no real issues with that fantastic innings being number 1.
Yeah, I think I might agree with Nick there. I think especially coming off the cold weather day where the women look so uncomfortable, it's raining, they're slipping around, the field looks a bit dodgy, and then they come back and it was such a team effort in when it came to bowling. They just took wickets throughout the innings, and as Estelle described it, right, you kept thinking, okay, these batters are going to put a partnership together and they're going to get to 150 and it's going to be out of range. And then I think the characteristic that the Atapattu innings shares with that game is a fearlessness, because she came out in that, to open the batting in the England game, and she scores 55 off 31, and that was some audacious hitting there. No fear. Okay, we have 106 to chase. Let's take our time and play it out. When she gets out, I think it's the 10th over, they're already at 80 for 2. And there was just no fear. It was a fearlessness that she played with that I thought was so amazing. You know, so many times we've seen the senior men's side say, okay, we've got a small total to chase. We're gonna pack it in and we're gonna take it long. But she said, you know what? I'm not worried about this. And she led from the front. And it was just such a amazing feeling to see, you know, to not be fearful and to just take it out, beat England in England, and then turn it into a series win in England. And that for me is kind of the one of the ultimate highlights is whenever you can beat England in England, right? That's kind of a plus mark for Sri Lanka cricket, again, because of what Mark is saying, the sort of disrespect we sometimes receive. So that's why I would put it number one. But again, 140 off of 80 in a chase of 196 against New Zealand, that also is a very deserving number one.
So Mark is the tiebreaker.
Yeah, deciding vote.
And you were
I'm gonna
there.
go with the New. I'm gonna go with the New Zealand innings. I think because I think I'm using my own personal bias if I go the other way, because I think I've convinced myself that actually the New Zealand innings is the key moment. Without that, then nothing else happens, and they don't come to England with the confidence, right? I think it's worth having a word about Charmery, because I think it's on like she is by far and away at this point the best hitter of the ball Sri Lanka have. And it's so, and it's obviously very sad, but I love the collectiveness when she fails to get another, not make a franchise league, how upset almost everyone around Sri Lankan cricket happens to be for her. It's unexplainable. But I think the kind of good thing that's happened in the past 18 months or so, and I'll defer to Andrew and Estelle for more on this, is that SLC seem to have put some investment into women's cricket, and kind of we're seeing the results because they've got a bit of a structure around her now, and they're able to go and win series against more established women's teams, right?
Andrew?
I was gonna throw it to you. Okay, so I mean, I actually think that a lot of this is happening despite SLC. I think that given the amounts of kind of surpluses that they've announced over the last few years, last couple of years, especially in terms of their budgets, and given the enormous pay disparity between the men's and women's leagues, you know, there is no serious provincial domestic league for women. There is a domestic structure, like a very loose, informal domestic structure, but it's not one where that's designed to kind of bring talent in from various parts of the country. It's not one that is good at identifying talent. It's not one that's good at fostering that talent very well. And I don't think that there has been, like, I think this year that they announced an increase in the match fees for women, which obviously very welcome announcement and very welcome thing. But that is not to say that, I mean, compared to, say, what the top teams, you know, the percentage of disparity between the England teams or the Australia teams or the India teams. India is a little bit different because obviously the men get IPL deals as well, but in terms of what the board itself pays them, I don't think that SLC is up there. I think that there are other teams that are better at investing in women's cricket than Sri Lanka is. And also, let's not forget that a lot of this, yes, there have been other players coming in, but a lot of this is basically down to Sri Lanka having a superstar player, and the superstar player having had the year of her life, and having carried the team through many bits, many difficult challenges. But other players have of course chipped in. But once you take her out of the equation, and she's thankfully doesn't seem like slowing down, but she is at that age where batters kind of peak. But then there is also eventually going to be a decline, right? And so there has to be much more invested at the grassroots level, I think, than SLC is doing now. I'm willing to give SLC like a little bit of credit, but really, really would be reluctant to give them a lot of credit, because I think there is still, where Sri Lanka is not up to global standards when it comes to investing.
Just to clarify my point, though, is that kind of 18 months ago we were talking about where will Sri Lankan women ever play again? Like, where have they gone? not 18 months ago, a little bit more than that.
Yes.
So the fact that they've come back and the SLC are giving them something, even though admittedly, Andrew, there is a long way to go. It's better than where
they've cleared a very low bar.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely with Andrew, I think, because there has been stuff done, like, for example, they have reserved nets at Tamil Union, and they can use the pool, and that kind of thing. That's for the national team and the under-19 team and emerging team, right? The grassroots level, there still needs to be a lot of work done. Also, like, I think they like to ride on Atapattu's success. Like, the New Zealand series at the time I was with the papare.com, Sri Lanka Cricket did not want to invest in live streaming that series. So, I mean, that's the minimum, right? You're hosting an international series, and you're not willing to invest in live streaming it. And I know we got a lot of complaints about third umpire, and that wasn't the broadcaster's fault. It was that there was no money coming in from anywhere. It was them taking up, paying for the entire thing.
And
So
imagine if Papare hadn't got that,
yeah,
hadn't
exactly.
pushed,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have ever had footage of this incredible innings and that series,
And I
we
mean,
wouldn't have.
like, to be honest, right? When we were talking about live streaming it, everyone was asking me, do you think we have a chance? I said, no, we have no chance. We're going to lose 3-0 in both series. It's going to be a hammering, but let's do it. But like, so SLC would want to, like, they live stream the Bangladesh series because they expected Sri Lanka to win those games, right? But New Zealand, that belief was not there, so they were not too keen to spend money on it. Another thing, I mean, at the same time where Sri Lanka Cricket was offering Yupun Abekun, the sprinter, finances, right? Sri Lankan women in their international series, there is no prize money for player of the match. Like, again, another basic thing, right? So they do get cash prizes now for the domestic tournaments. And I mean, it's moving, but it's moving at a very slow pace, I feel. And those are things that are a given, right? You invite a team over, and player of the match gets like a trophy you get in school, and no cash award. It doesn't look good either, right? So if you're saying that you're wealthy board, then those are things that you need to look into.
So lots of road for SLC to travel when they eventually get unsuspended by the ICC. I want to open up a can of worms and say your predictions for next year, but I think that might be a whole different show, and we'll just leave it at this happy moment. Talking about Sri Lanka's greatest moments or best moments from 2023. And if you've made it all the way to the end, please do hit the subscribe button. Thank you for listening. And subscribe to our newsletter as well, our weekly digest of our musings from Sri Lankan cricket. It's all free. See you later. Have a good Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye.